Hi, I'm Missy with On William Street, and we are here to help you become a more confident quilter from the piecing to the quilting and everything in between. This month we are back with block 10 of our annual quilt along. So this month we're going to make this really fun block that when you break it down, really is a simple 9-patch. So we'll walk through the steps of putting that together. Okay, so just a couple of tips that are going to be helpful as you're working on all of these blocks throughout the year. We want to make sure that we go over those so that you just have a reminder. So one thing, starching your fabric before you cut everything out is going to make sure that everything is just nice and crisp. So that is one thing that we do recommend is go ahead and starch your fabric. You do want to starch it before you cut your squares though, because starching it can change the size of your block. So you want to make sure you starch it first. The other tip is go ahead and use a scant 1/4 inch seam. This allows you to have a slightly bigger block and do any trimming if you need to. So just double check that scant 1/4 inch. If you're also just kind of double checking, making sure that your 1/4 inch really is a true 1/4 inch so that when you're scant, it is a true scant. So just double check that. We do have a video on our channel that talks about checking your machine and making sure that your 1/4 inch seam is a true 1/4 inch seam. So go ahead and check that out. The other item is when you're trimming off your dog ears. So this is going to be on half square triangles, on flying geese, things like that. Make sure that you're only trimming those dog ears and you're not getting into the block itself, because if you get into the block itself, it's going to make that block smaller and then things aren't going to line up the way they need to. Okay, so for block 10, we need to go ahead and we need to cut 4 strips at 4.5 by 1.5, and then 4 strips at 1.5 by 2.5. So we're going to cut the 4.5 inch first. Flip my ruler around. Make sure it's on the 4.5 line. And then we'll cut this down into 2 1.5 inch strips. But I'm going to cut the next section first. Okay. And then if you want to, you could actually layer these on top of each other and cut those 1.5 inch strips on both of them at the same time. Okay, and then for this one, we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to cut them as 2.5 inches to start. And then we'll cut them into 1.5 inch strips. You need to flip your fabric the right direction. I'm going to edit that out. Okay, so for this block, we're actually just going to go ahead and start laying out the block. We don't have half square triangles or anything that we're sewing together first. So we're going to start off with our center, and we're going to have our white 2.5 inch square in the center with our 1.5 by 2.5 inch white pieces on each side, and then on the top and the bottom. And then we have 8 1.5 inch squares of our white. So we're going to take those first 4 and we're going to lay those in each of the corners. And we're going to go ahead and sew this together just like you would a regular 9-patch. So those 3, and then those 3, and then sew the 3 rows to each other. Now that our center's done, we can go ahead and add the rest of them. So then we're going to take our 4.5 by 1.5 inch color strips, lay them out, and then the other 4 1.5 inch white squares, put those in the corners, and then we're just going to do the same thing. Just treat this as a 9-patch again. So those 3, and those 3, and then sew each of those rows to each other. Okay, go ahead and repeat all of those steps with the remaining colors. And just a reminder, don't forget to store them someplace nice and flat so that things are all good to go when we're ready to sew our quilt together. You can find all of the information that we went over today in the blog post. So you can find a link below the video. So click on that and you can check out all of the instructions there. Don't forget to check out our store while you're there. Find your next quilting project. And you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram to see all of the things that we are working on. And happy quilting!